Now let's talk about how to ask people who are not clients, because that's really important here. So that's the question. We'll talk about what to do when you get there in a minute, but that's the question. That's not that hard. I'm interested in the unique financial challenges that insert name of niche face. Given that you are one, I knew you'd have some insight into that. Would you mind if we meet for coffee? And I'll ask you a few questions. Okay, now let's talk real quickly. Let's pretend like there are some people that you don't know. Okay, and here's how you find those people. Because ideally, I think you want to do 10 of these interviews. And the material you get from these 10 interviews, that's why I like you to think about, it's going to inform your content creation strategy going forward. Like it's all reusable, right? And I like the idea of framing it around a white paper. If I knew I was going to write a white paper, this is how the request would go. Michael, I'm super curious about the unique challenges, unique financial challenges that senior partners at small architectural firms face. And I know that you would have some insight into that problem because you are one. You know, one of my goals is to write a white paper with what we find. And I'm curious if we could just meet for coffee. Actually, probably do the coffee part first. Given that you are one of them, I know you'd have some insight into that question. Could we just meet for coffee? And I'll ask you a few questions. My goal, based on what we find, is to write a white paper, and I'll make sure I get you a pre-publication copy. That's why the white paper thing's so nice, is because it's a thing that you can give them, and it gives some structure to what you're talking about. Now, you don't have to. You could do the first version. Okay, cool. Now, we show up, we ask some questions. We'll talk about that more in a minute, because I know people are going to want to know those questions. The last question we're going to ask is, Michael, gosh, this has been super informative. Who else do you know that might have unique insight into the problems that partners at architecture firms face? Now, you can prompt them a bit. Hey, you mentioned there's a chapter of the Architect Owner Society. Do you happen to know anybody over there? Like, so maybe they know the president of the society. Maybe they know the editor of the, hey, do they produce a newsletter? Like, those are the kind of people we want to get on this other list. So the other list we're thinking about is distribution, right? So a list of people who are in the profession that can give you interesting things, starting with clients and people you know, friendly territory. The other people we're hoping to find are people that can help us, again, just using the white paper as a placeholder. Please don't get too concerned about that, but they can help us with the distribution of what we learn. So I could give you example after example of how this works, but let's say the editor at the Southern Nevada Dental Association. Okay, so we got that name. So let's go back to the invite with someone that you don't know. Okay, so somebody gave you a name. John, my friend, he also owns an architecture firm. Or, hey, Sally's the editor of the Architectural Firm Digest. Gosh, could you introduce me to Sally? Oh, yeah, for sure. It sounds really interesting. For me, it'd be really interesting if you could introduce me to Sally. That'd be amazing. Okay, how do we approach Sally? We just say, Sally, thanks, John, for the introduction in the email. Thanks, John, for the introduction. Hi, Sally. I'm really interested in the unique challenges that partners at small architectural firms face. And given your role as the editor, John and I both thought you'd have some insight into that problem. Would it be okay if we just met? I can stop by your place even. I'll bring you coffee if you want, but could we just meet for 15 or 20 minutes so I could ask you some questions? My goal, right, with what I find is to write a white paper. Now, I want to just introduce this, like, why are you interested? I never had anybody ask that. Never. I don't know anybody who we've taught to do this has ever had anybody ask that. But if they do, there is nothing wrong with saying, we have a number of art. Now, you can't say this if it's not true. We're not allowed to lie and call it marketing. But we have a number of architects, and we are always looking for ways to serve them better. There's nothing wrong with just being upfront. Like, we're looking for ways to serve that better. Or even we've really enjoyed working with them and we'd like to work with more. And we know the best way to work with more, we want to make sure we can serve them well. Greetings, Carl here. Thanks for watching that little clip. I love my conversations I have with Michael on our podcast, Kitces and Carl. Love them, love them, love them. You know what else I love? These conversations that I have once a month as part of the membership program over at the Society of Advice. It's crazy, right? I invite some of my favorite people, the smartest people, the most impactful people I can think of, to come have a conversation with me about the work that you do. These are conversations you cannot hear anywhere else, right? Sometimes they're with big, well-known authors and public thinkers, but often they're with people that you probably have never heard of, but will change your life. It's 90 minutes every month. It's called the membership. And you know what I think you should do? Here's an idea, crazy idea, but we've built this free trial. We've put some of my favorite little snippets of my favorite conversations for you to get an idea of what you're going to find on the inside, so you don't have to believe me. So just click the link and take a free trial and then tell me what you think. Thanks, my friends.